One. Okay, we are live.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of DESIGNathon. We have a super important topic today. Following up on the ethics episode from last month, this month's episode is about AI bias. We have three amazing experts here today. I'm so grateful y'all are here. Some quick self-promotion, which I hate doing, but I have no choice because we have to pay the bills. Voiceofai.io is dropping April 1st. It was the one-of-a-kind knowledge repository / boot camp, not boot camp, for anybody who wants to learn all those new AI skills that will get you those jobs, the skills of the future: voice design, chat design, conversation design, agents, multimodal, vision, you name it, it's there. 20 plus modules, all for free. April 1st, check it out. Besides that, I want to hand things off to my stunning co-host Manaz. Manaz, want to say hi to everybody?
Thanks, Anne. Hi, everyone. I'm Anaz. I'm an AI product designer and the DESIGNathon co-host. Happy to be here with you. Again, I just want to tell you that the Swarmathon is coming, so just stay tuned. And yeah, let's meet our awesome, amazing panelists here. Let's start with Christian.
Hello, everyone, and good morning. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Christian Ortiz. They call me Zacateco in the community. I am a decolonial social scientist and technologist and the founder and developer of Justice AI GPT. What they say is the world's first AI to solve the bias problem. So this is a perfect fitting conversation that I'm beyond excited to talk about. Extremely important, and I'm extremely grateful to be here. So thank you very much.
Happy to have you with us, Christian. Dr. Shai?
I'm Dr. Shai, Dr. Shaista Hussain, founder and CEO of SafeCheck, which is an AI safety and risk management system. So we run model evals on legacy and agentic and now quantum ML systems to evaluate the data, the model, the end user safety. We cover everything from child safety, disability access, all the way through to post-quantum encryption. So safety and security for systems. By way of background, I'm a medical doctor, a pathologist that decided that engineering suited my personality more. And so then I respecialized and became an engineer. Very honored and humbled to be in the presence of all these wonderful people. Anne and Mahnaz, thank you for having us. Christian and Yadi, truly an honor to be in your presence. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
What a boss.
And the one and the only Yadi Arroyo.
Oh, stop. I'm Yadi Arroyo. I'm an AI UX architect. I've been doing it for quite a while, have a couple of patents in multimodal AIs. How I got into the conversation is that I'm a jerk. I like to adversarial test systems for funsies. And I just recently got into politics. Thank you, Christian. Actually, yeah, thank you, Christian. Because it's when you get your eyes open for the first time, when the floodgates open, right? That's when you realize and connect the dots. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm uniquely qualified to understand these systems because like I actually know them from the inside, right? So like my goal in life, if I can self-promote, I'm looking for a job that's willing to pay for my law school, right? Because I want to go into IP law now because there's a specialty that isn't there yet, which is the cross-section of AI, bias, and, social, civil rights. Right. And I think that's a specialty that's going to come up pretty soon. So anyone that wants to fund my my law degree there, I'm willing to take it. But thank you, Christian. Yeah, I'm like, I specifically want to say Christian because some of his posts like really hit to the heart of why like I do this adversarial testing for fun. Right. And I do a lot of really weird use cases to just kind of like see how the systems react. And I have really cool data on that. That's the cool part. But thank you for having me here. I'm so excited. Dr. Shai and Christian and Manaz.
Thank you.
You know what, Yadi, I don't think I'm letting anything out of the bag, but your positivity and your whole vibe, you explain it best. You say you're A human? What? Say it. Say it for me.
What? That I'm a human walking heart with
Golden
legs.
retriever.
Oh, I am a human golden retriever.
You're like pure love and tail shaking and like root for everybody, and it's just
Well, for
it's
the
what I
most
love
part,
so much.
I would say there's a couple people that we can't root for, and we have, and that's the thing, right? Like, if someone who's positive as me says,
Yeah.
"Whoa, that person sucks," pay attention. Pay attention.
Because that person must really suck for you to go.
Well,
there.
I mean, let's talk Sam Altman. Let's talk about like some of those guys, right? Zuckerberg.
We have plenty of talk privately about those things, but I always like to kick off with a simple question, just to kind of get everybody on the audience kind of understanding base level of what the topic is. So, this in the simplest version you got, what actually is AI bias, and why should someone who has never thought about it care? Discuss.
PsyOps. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in terms of like social manipulation for the masses. And right now, like, we're looking at it. Social media is like one way, but AI actually scales it up faster. So fraud, potential PsyOps, potential like mass manipulations, corruption, all of a sudden goes up, and it's subtle and insidious. And if you don't pay attention, then you'll get like slipped into it, right? That's how we got, I don't want to get into politics, but that's how we ended up with the president that we have in the US, right? Because a lot of people, there was like a lot of their weaknesses were used against them, and they were straight up lied to. And then now, like, they didn't vote for this, but they did. Like, everybody else knew about it except them, because PsyOps was used, and AI wasn't part of it. Social media was. But imagine if AI was part of it, right? And I will tell you that AI is part of it, because that's the part of the adversarial testing I do, right? I test literally for Iran. I tested for like Charlie Kirk. I tested for whatever, and all the systems acted differently. And I will tell you that OpenAI's ChatGPT was the one that was gaslighting the most. That's the part where I was like, oh my God. I asked it about Iran war, and it said, it's not a war. I'm like, there's no war. And I'm like, can you check the latest news? And it's like, oh, okay, I saw that there is something, but it's a military action. I'm like, oh, so no. So I'm like, can you define war for me? It defines war. Can you define what happened in Iran? Is it a war? And it's like, ChatGPT never admitted to yes. Like, you know what I'm saying? Versus Claude, that straight up was like, oh, let me give you the whole history. Like, it was very like a different experience. And that's when I realized, wait a minute, what's going on here? What is going on here? Right. I mean, I want to hear from Dr. Shai and Christian about like what they think about that.
It's very interesting. I think when we take a look at bias and we understand where bias comes from, most people don't. I think what's interesting is we're conditioned to say, well, everybody has bias, and so what is there to do about it? And for the majority of our lives, that's been true. We have had things like critical race theory and decolonial theory that have addressed these topics and been preaching to the choir for decades, but they've never been really accepted, and there's been a lot of pushback federally for it. But to your point too, it's funny when we say we don't want to get political, but all of our existence is political. Our lived experiences are political. So we have to get political, right? We have to talk about the uncomfortable things, and we have to talk about these systems and understand how they're working. I've been a social justice activist and studying decolonial theory and knowledge for over 10 years now. And I can tell you that everything that we do in society is political, and it's controlled by power systems. And so the way that I enter spaces, one of the things that I love about decolonial education is that it is not adversarial to the point where it is not a means for me to come into a space and point fingers. It's really to help people understand that this isn't really about us. It's about a system that allows us to operate the way that we do. And so if we understand bias and we understand these issues that we're dealing with as a systems issue, as a systemic issue, then I think it becomes an easier conversation to have. But to your point, also, these GPTs gaslighting, it's incredible. It's why I just built Justice AI on its own platform. I celebrated yesterday because that was a humongous task to pull it out of ChatGPT and Claude. because of this same issue, this bias that lives within AI systems. These AI systems are programmed with what they call the guardrails, and the guardrails chooses this two-sided answer. And for me, as an ethicist, as somebody who's a decolonial theorist and technologist, as someone who's fighting against bias, oppression is not a debatable topic for me. And so as I enter this work, I have to let my audience know, like, these are my non-negotiables when we're talking about what I'm fighting for, right? And so then I encourage everybody to ask themselves, well, what are your non-negotiables? Meaning, like, what do you allow in terms of oppression? Do you allow patriarchy into the room? Do you allow homophobia in the room? Do you allow all of these things in the room? Because they're all interconnected within the same system. And so this is why having this conversation about bias is so incredibly important, because there's not enough education about it out there. And so having rooms like this where we can talk about this is beyond important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, how to speak after that, Christian and Yadi, you guys, as I mentioned, you humble me. I will mention from two perspectives briefly. From a technical development perspective, there are data biases from training data that is used in AI systems, and then there's post-deployment post-deployment data biases. There's also model selection bias. So there's a certain amount of onus on bias that falls to the developers and the architects of these systems who, for example, may choose a data set that had selection bias or confirmation bias or reinforcement bias. Not enough people are going back to the training data, which is the heart, and it's the circulatory system of an AI, any AI system. And to say, okay, based on what you've been trained on, dear model, have you been trained on information that does reflect the end user population? Because then that leads into an ethics issue, which is, are end users using systems that don't speak representative of themselves? So for example, if you've trained a model, the early ChatGPT model, I've used this example before, but it's quite profound in that when people from other parts of the world outside of the United States were to ask ChatGPT in its early version, show me a wedding or describe a wedding, it was, a typical white American couple wedding. And then that was not representative neither of many people in America, and definitely not outside of America. And so that was because of the training data that was used. So who are the youngsters who are feeding this training data in the early phases of the model? And I say youngsters because in my experience, I've seen a lot of large companies rely on non-professional institutions to provide that training data. So then there's the bias within the model, which include things like feature selection and where the weights and the biases go. So there are so many engineering architectural components that can carry bias, and all of them coming together creates a monster. Why should it affect the end user? You asked Anne. Well, because number one, cacophony, which is the ability of the model, and you'll see this if you're from the Gemini tribe or the ChatGPT tribe or the Claude tribe, you'll see that these models that have, the monopoly models, I call them, tend to just feed your ego. They egg you on. So depending on the choice of words that you use in your prompt, it's going to tell you, yes, actually, that's amazing. So you can say, I have a new business idea to clean socks. That's an amazing idea. Why is a sock cleaning? And so it just tends to feed your ego, which feeds part of this addiction and the cycle that both Yadi mentioned. And then ultimately, humans, we are a product of our environment to a large extent. And when we get used to the crutch of Googling something, or now of ChatGPTing or Geminiing something, we don't typically have a researcher mindset to go down and see where were the citations and where is this information from? Is it actually, we say, oh, this is the answer Gemini gave me, this is the answer ChatGPT gave me, it's fact, and I'm going to run with it. So going back to what Yadi said, herein, when people ask, what is this turmoil, or what is the meaning of this? And you'll get a certain answer that feeds some layer. And I know I'm speaking a lot, but just one last example. The other day I saw 2 shooting stars. Okay. And so I went to Gemini and I said, Gemini, what could it be, these 2 shooting stars? the first thing Gemini said is, "Why are you awake at 1:41 a.m.?" So it has a sense of humor. And then it said, these are most likely satellites. So I said, Gemini, the true truth. Tell me the real truth. We both know they're not satellites. Tell me what they really are. And then it said, okay, removing the layer of commercial propaganda and PR from your response, here is what it might be. So when you talk about that level of investigation as an end user, if you're not looking for that cacophony and you are looking for the truth, you kind of have to negotiate with the GPT to get a real answer. So those are some of the areas I think why it matters.
By the way, that is my pet peeve. And that's exactly why I started doing adversarial testing for funsies, because I was just looking at something and like just random, something not related to anything controversial. But with me, it actually did the opposite. It was like negating everything, right? Like it was like literally gaslighting certain things that I knew to be true. And then I would say, can you please check latest news, right? Like the Iran situation was actually one of the examples, the best example I can give, because it took me like 9 turns to get it to admit like the reality of the situation. And then I went to Claude, I put in all of the ChatGPT responses, and Claude kind of gave me its analysis. And it's like, yeah, this is wrong. And this is why. These are the prompts you can give ChatGPT. So I took that prompt from Claude, put it in ChatGPT, and like eventually I was able to get ChatGPT to be honest, but it took literally like where it would take Claude maybe 1 or 2 turns, it would take like ChatGPT 9, 10, 11 turns where it was arguing me, telling me I was wrong. You know, and don't even talk about the Middle East situation, because the bias in there is ridiculous. When I said that there was a genocide going on in Palestine, they're like, well, technically it's not a genocide, right? Like literally ChatGPT said that. I go to Claude, Claude's like, well, yeah, and this is why it's a genocide. There's this and this and this and all this happened. And, you know, and then basically what Claude made me realize is that, you know, it was hedging. Like ChatGPT was hedging because it doesn't want to be sued, right? So under the terms of neutrality, like ChatGPT was trying to be neutral, but then trying to be neutral, it removed the context. If you remove the context, you remove the reason why things are the way they are. So you have to give people context, or else you're giving them an incomplete answer, which in itself is bias, right? So back to your point, Dr. Shai, absolutely. Absolutely what you're saying. But the thing is, people don't and won't take time to argue with someone. Like I said before early on, I'm an asshole. I'm a jerk. So I'm going to keep arguing with it. Right. And that's the best gift I can give the world. It's like, I will not give up. If I know something and I know I'm right, I'm going to like pursue it. And then until I make, you know, it makes me quit it. Right.
You know, it's so interesting. My partner says one thing that stuck with me forever. She said, how we do one thing is how we do everything. Right. And we're a species that really operates through conditioned patterns, right? And so as an educator myself, a former educator, as I started my deconstruction from the system of white supremacy, or racial empire logic, which I tell everybody, we inherit it and we don't ask for it, and we're all the byproduct of the system, right? So it's, when I say that, it's not for me pointing fingers to anybody, because we're all guilty of inheriting the system. But when I started deconstructing from the system, I realized that education is really indoctrination in the model that we have today. We're indoctrinated to learn and believe these things. And people hate when I say that, because they're like, no, because I'm a free thinker and this, that, and the other. But I'm like, not really though, right? We were conditioned to believe and think about certain things. And we've gotten to this point, I think, when we collectively come to groups like these, we demonstrate that we have illustrated this pulling away from the system that has conditioned us. And obviously now we're thinking in ways that break the system. It breaks the norm. It challenges the status quo. And so it's horrifying when we take a look at these AI systems that hedge so much. To your point, Yadi, yesterday I was testing ChatGPT on something as simple as asking it if certain individuals in politics were fascists, or whether they were racist, or is the United States a white supremacist, nation, or all of these questions. And the way it was defining these terms was completely racial gaslighting. and it was horrifying that even still in 2026, with all the outrage, it tells me that they are not prioritizing the right things in data. And so it gives me a deeper lens and a look into these things that nobody wants to talk about. But again, it's why we are where we are in politics and in the world. And so I feel like we definitely have a responsibility to have these conversations to address these things. And really, I posted this in my video yesterday. We juggle this duality, this responsibility, where we're educating people on ethics and bias. And for all of you who follow my page and my social media, you know that this to be true. Like, I have to educate my audiences on bias and on systems and also on ethics and AI and how they intertwine. And that becomes a tedious task, but it's necessary because we don't have a lot of a lot of people don't have AI literacy, and they don't have literacy when it comes to systems and how we operate. And so it's a big challenge. It's a big thing. But also, to your earliest point, Yadi, I think that these the opportunities that are coming to this space that is going to allow specialists and people who study these things to come in and really make a huge impact. I think that AI ethics is going to explode over the next 10 years wholeheartedly.
Wow, you guys, amazing. I usually like to keep my first couple questions kind of surface, but I can't, like, we've already gone deep. So let me ask this one, because this one gets thrown at me quite a lot, because I sort of try and position my consultancy as, ethical AI. I'm not here to help you fire your team. I'm here to help you kind of augment your team. And that's kind of what I want to be known for in that space. But I have people in my comments all the time say there's no such thing as ethical AI. Discuss, please.
So before we start discussing this amazing question, so I want to ask our audience to welcome, and I want to encourage you to put your questions in the comments, and we'll try to answer them at the end of the call in the last 15 minutes of the call. So, yeah.
Thank you. You're so good at keeping me in line, Manaz. But again, is there any such a thing as ethical AI?
I think anything's possible. Right? Anything's possible. If Donald Trump can be president, then that could be ethical AI.
Listen, I always say this. I think this is an important conversation because this is an opportunity for us to remind people that AI is a tool in a racial capitalist system. Right? AI didn't grow legs and walk into a room and said, "I'm taking your job and I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm stealing your opportunities." AI doesn't work that way, right? So it's not that AI, there's no such thing as an ethical AI. There's no such thing as an ethical capitalist system. And so if we want to talk about systems, we have to understand the system of capitalism and really address that in the room. And people aren't ready to have that conversation.
They're not.
And that's the unfortunate part. So to my point earlier, when we're talking about ethics and AI, there's a lot of misinformation and misconceptions about both topics. And so this is an opportunity to have those conversations to really clear that up, right? And listen, I'm not a tech bro. I developed Justice AI to go against all mainstream AIs. So I'm not here saying like I disagree, but I think that the unethical practices that are foundational to these AIs are the problem. And I literally have built a system that proves otherwise. Like if you built it from the ground up through a decolonial framework, you bring people to the table who are historically excluded. You have intersectional identities that are represented. You work with communities from around the world. It's absolutely possible to have an ethical AI. So I understand the frustration and I understand that, but I think the frustration comes from people misunderstanding that this is a systemic issue versus an individualistic AI that just hates the world.
I hear you on that. I hear you so much. When you say decolonialism, so I was the opposite of you in that I was so blind to it, right? I was so blind to it literally up until November 2024, right? The minute Trump got elected, all of a sudden I started freaking out. the minute January, I think it was January 20th, literally when I heard his spiel, I freaked out. But it was when the Doge stuff happened, when the data breach happened, that's when all of a sudden all the dots started connecting. Because I was like, I mean, by the way, I'm in banking, right? And I know how precious data is. And the reason I'm in banking is precisely because of the systems. I'm in the banking system because I know everybody needs to bank. Banking is like water and like food. It's a necessary evil right now. We need to be able to transfer money. So I'm one of the few, what I consider ethical bankers. Maybe not one of the few. There's a lot of us, but the reality is I'm not like super high up in banking. I'm like a mid-tier maybe, right? But like I'm in there because we need more people like me that are going to do right by humanity, right? Where it's like, I don't care what my orders are. I will not take unlawful orders. I mean, I may play the game, but I'm still not going to do the illegal stuff. I'm still not going to do the unethical stuff. I'm still going to find a workaround, right? I am the ears and the eyes of people that care about AI ethics within the system because the system is so big. And that's given me a lot of it's giving me both good and bad, like a purview into how systems work from the inside, right? And you see how when good people try to do good, how it gets squished, right? So if we think about that into AI, right? AI is going to speed that up, right? So if it's a good system, then great. If it's a bad system, then obviously bad. But I'll be honest, it's more bad than good, right? All these systems, because it's a capitalist society, they want to make money, right? Right now, it's being subsidized. People don't realize, and this is the problem with companies. They're like doing all these AI transformations, not realizing that they're going to get suckered into the system where they're going to end up paying a lot more, and then they can't remove that system. Right? Kind of how Amazon did it. Amazon kind of started off cheap, losing money as a loss leader. It took out Sears. It took out all these other competitors. And now those competitors don't exist anymore. Right? Like JCPenney, I don't know. Do they still exist? I don't know. I know Sears doesn't. Right? So my point being is you first play the good card and you're like, oh, look how good we are. We're affordable. We're this. Look at all the great stuff. Look at the shiny thing here while I'm doing all this extractive stuff here in the background. Right? So to your point, Christian, it's important that people pay attention and to start understanding systems for what they are. Because the problem, yes, it can be humans within the system, but mostly if the system is bad, if it's a Malak system where bad actions get rewarded, then guess what's going to happen? Right?
Yeah. Well, go ahead. So sorry. No, go ahead.
I just wanted to say I agree in that, Yadi, we do need more of you, 100%. And Christian, we need way more of you as well. But please go ahead before I start. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. I agree. I think that these tools, there's this argument that I hear that there's two sides that I hear, that AI is unintentionally biased because it just scrapes all of the data from the Western world on the internet. And then I hear this argument that it's intentionally built this way for things. And when we look at the world politically, I can believe that. But when we operate individually and we have conversations with people who don't know better, I can believe that too. So I think two things can be right in this entire conversation. And so to your point, Yadi, I think, it reminds me of Audre Lorde, who says, you can't use the master's tool to bring down the master's house. I think AI has actually given us an opportunity to do that, to use these tools and to use it against the system and build something new that we have never seen before.
I agree.
I might jump in as a segue to what you're saying. Well, I definitely concur with all of the points you both have made. My own philosophy is we typically evaluated the world as, becoming in the future dystopic or utopic, some sort of dystopia that we're headed into or that we are in at the moment. And I would argue that we're the same as we've always been, and we're just using new tools and exaggerating maybe reaching that same end goal a bit faster. So people would publish books back in the day, paper books that didn't necessarily reflect the beliefs of a larger society, but they would claim it would, or they would make claims, and then people in the other end of the world would pick up that book and then they would that was a form of bias that was conveyed. And then now we're doing it with content, or we're doing it with AI training data. So I think it's the same thing that's happening. You can call it dystopia, or you could call it the search for utopia, but it comes back to the sort of benevolent leadership ideology. And we as humans, we don't exert benevolence in our own leadership, and because we're projects in work, we're learning along the way. And I myself have had to take very long, windy paths to learn a very simple thing in life. And in retrospect, you're like, gosh, if I could have just not such a thick skull, I could have learned that lesson way easier. But that is our human condition. Now, as the proprietors of this technology, we certainly will embody some of those traits into that technology, which makes it sort of an Ouroboros argument, in that if we're creating and we are imperfect, how can we aspire to expect perfection from these systems, or benevolence from these systems that are naturally carrying our mistakes, our erroneous ways, our fallacies, and then that is all the more reason why what Christian and Yadi are saying makes so much sense. In that, if those who are in control, who will arguably say that species of people has always been in control, then they would continue to perpetuate those same biases, just using this new tool, meaning it injects into younger minds faster now than it took us to read those books. So I don't know.
You hit the nail on the head with that one, right? Just because it's written doesn't make it accurate, right? Just because it's out there doesn't make it right. And then we think about the people that actually, well, let's think about a lot of factors. One, the positions of power. Who gets those positions? People who want them. Who want the positions? People who have dark triad traits. Those are like maybe 80% of the people that are more successful up there, right? Because someone like me doesn't want to be a CEO. Like I'm in the shit. I'm a high level IC. I want to actually do work. I actually want to design. I want to do like wireframes. I want to do system design, workflows. Like that's where I'm at, right? I want to actually make stuff that actually works, because there's a lot of theater that goes on, right? Especially the higher level up. It's like you just have to look good. Everything is about looking good. Oh, Dr. Shai, you want to say something?
I'm just saying yes, 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 all the way in the background. Yes.
Well, because that's what we're seeing now, this AI theater. They're like, by the way, so this is what I'm thinking. You guys can confirm or deny. It seems like AI is proliferating, like the AI masters, the gods, right? They're saying, oh, look, AI is going to steal your job and doing that because it benefits them, this myth, right? And I'm not, this is not a new idea. This is like Karen Howe, who I stole from, right? Because she said this in an interview. It's like they want to perpetuate this myth. This myth that like AI is dangerous, it's going to take your job, so you better behave. Because guess what? These dark triad people, it's to their benefit to keep you in check. They want indentured servants. They want to go back to slavery, right? And what are they doing? They're like reducing the amount of jobs available, right? They're making life a lot harder for us. Why? So that we can shut up and take it, and take whatever little crumbs they want to give us, right? And if we're too exhausted to fight back, then we can't see the issues at the top. Right. So that's why what they don't realize is like, if we can actually solve the problem by being more of a community, right? By actually talking to each other. And by the way, the bias, the fact that it was trained on Western media is the problem. That is the big bias, because when I asked it about geopolitics, right, it gives me this Western point of view that there's no genocide in Palestine, technically, by legal definitions. I was like, actually, technically, by legal definitions, let me give you the framework, buddy, right? It got to the point when I was having this adversarial conversation, literally when the first bomb dropped in Iran, I was like, I should be a lawyer. I should be a goddamn lawyer, because I was relentless. I was not giving up on ChatGPT. I like grilled it. And finally, at the end of the conversation, it's like, you know what? I'm going to go to law school. And ChatGPT said, I don't recommend it. I went to Claude, and keep in mind, I was using two systems at the same time in parallel, right? What ChatGPT would tell me, I would send to Claude. Claude would tell me what to prompt back to ChatGPT to get the right answer. And Claude was like, wow. Like, even Claude was like, wow, that's
Claude was like, wow, ChatGPT is a dick.
Yeah, basically, but it made me realize, like, no, I should really go to law school, because like I was not going to let it go. I was like, I know this. You're not going to gaslight me. But let's be honest, how many people would put themselves through that? The normal average human user thinks AI is great. So I'm going to call it AI theater, right? That's what leaders that are enabling AI right now, they're going through AI theater. They want to believe this myth of like AI is going to replace employees. Guess what, dude? Amazon had several blackouts because like AI deleted all of their source files. So please tell me, it's like honestly the way I see it, and so many people have said this, LLMs is like working with an idiot savant with amnesia, right? If that's who you want to work with, please be my guest, right? But that's what they don't understand, right? That
I
there's
think
so
that's
many
the
like
quote of the day.
That's a t-shirt.
That is a whole t-shirt. I need to put that today on my LinkedIn.
That was brilliant. That's
well, and
Guys,
it's
let's.
because I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
Manaz.
Go ahead. I just wanted to like go deeper, but yeah, go ahead. Finish your.
Well, no, let's go deeper, right? Like why so that's how that person is supposed to, or that being is supposed to replace me as an employee, someone who could produce randomly good results sometimes, but you have to constantly remind them because the context window is so small and the memory is so small, and that's why they have to build more databases, and more places are getting infested with these like warehouse full of machines that are infecting their communities. Like they're draining the water resources. Like people don't see the real cost of AI because it's not in their backyard. But the minute it is, the minute they start getting cancer, the minute they can't, like they have to pay like 4-5 times the cost of everything, right? Because we're going to end up subsidizing those centers. That's what people don't realize. And they don't look far enough. They don't understand the system. Back to systems, right? If you look at the system and you understand the systems, then you can predict certain things about those systems. And what they don't realize that a lot of those systems expand exponentially, right? So it's not as simple as it's only going to grow this. It's like, no, it's going to go from here to here before you know it. And with all these myths and all these things that are layered in, it's our handcuffs. Essentially, it's our handcuffs. If we don't do something about it now, like we're going to be handcuffed to this technology that is going to supposedly replace us. But in the end, it's going to, like, as you guys are seeing, like our GDP is going down. Like it's not, in the end, it doesn't actually deliver on what it's promising, which is replacing humans at a cheaper cost. That's the people that think that don't realize AI could replace humans, but not good and not cheaper. It just, the people aren't feeling the costs yet. And when they really do, when they really see the cost of AI and see like, oh, a human could have done that better, faster, cheaper, because it's a human and it has like longer contextual memory, it has one person, like it carried through the whole thread, right? Instead of like every day having to remind the system, like, this is what we talked about yesterday. Can you rehash this? Like, they don't understand this. People that are not in the field, people that are making the decision, right? They're the idiots that are thinking, oh, this is a magical pill that's going to solve everything. Okay, buddy, go do your AI theater. And then let's come back a year from now and see how much money you have.
I just want to jump
these are
in.
amazing. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to mention something here, in that everything that Yadi has just said, if you visualize that, and now imagine that AI is here, and just around the corner we've got quantum machine learning, which is something that I've started working on and coding in, and wow, it's maybe the most extraordinary field of study I've ever encountered. But it also, for me, mathematically closed a lot of what I called open loops that I had when I was studying the math around AI. But I mean, going back to what Yadi was saying, around the corner is this quantum, and that is going to change the face of humans, of Earth, of our landscape, of everything. So if we don't correct these biases now, and we don't give people a chance to fix the foundation, we're headed in the wrong direction very quickly at a steep trajectory. So we kind of really need to find out if we can resolve anything now, because it's almost too late.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. That's
so we have 5 more minutes to discuss another subject. And would you like to bring up the next subject? And we're after that we go to the questions in the chat.
So we can go over if everybody has time. If you had a magic wand and can create governance, go. Right? Like if you were like, all right,
it's a trick question, Anne, and I'll tell you, I'm sorry to jump in, but I have to tell you why it's a trick question. Governance is a theoretical framework. Implementation is another step. And then penalties and enforcing compliance is another step. If I had that magic wand, it would be to connect all three, where they are fragmented at the moment. And it is the reason that it's failing, and it will continue to fail. And then we, for some reason, can't communicate with each other across the globe and have cohesive conversations. And then now you've got even more fragmented issues around creating governance. So it's a trick question.
So governance isn't the word. What is the word? What would you consolidate it
No, it's
into?
the right word. I'm just saying it's a trick question because a wand couldn't make right governance, because governance is nothing without the implementation and nothing without the compliance. And
Right.
those
So what's
two
that whole
things are so
package?
far removed.
What would you call that whole package?
Rule of law.
Oh,
So
Okay.
So how about like, so there's a Belgian recruitment study found that most debiasing techniques are superficial and fail to address the deeper historical like inequalities in training data. So when a company says we have like audited for bias, how do you know if that is real or theater? What does an actual fix look like versus a press release? So let's go with this.
that's a
This
good
is
one.
this is my favorite question because I work with organizations where I bring in Justice AI to conduct bias audits.
Mhm.
And the purpose is when they talk about running bias audits and they want to create, they talk about creating inclusive cultures and adding governance. But real governance is transformation from within. If we're not transforming these oppressive systems from within and making actual changes, like adding a person of the global majority to your C-suite, or adding intentional processes that hold people truly accountable for hate speech, or all of these things that really bring in organizational change, unless that's happening, it doesn't matter what your training is, it doesn't matter what you're bringing in terms of your tools. It's about transforming the systems. So for me, real governance, real bias automation, the intent is to bring transformation. And I think that is something that that systems are afraid of, because large corporations can afford to pay $1 million lawsuits off rather than investing in systems that bring transformational change from within, because they think that bringing in ethical tools and solutions is actually going to hinder their bottom dollar. And so we talk about, I always bring a comparison of like, well, if we're going to talk about bottom dollar, let's look at how much you're going to spend on lawsuits for misgendering one of your employees or for discriminating against, so on and so forth. And so having this from an organizational standpoint is extremely important. But also, when we talk about governance, especially in AI, we have to have policy in place federally, and we have to have people in place who can put these things forward. And right now, the global north, North America, Europe, who are building these AIs, they're the ones controlling the narrative right now, and that's the biggest challenge. So it requires people like us in this space and AI spaces to build these tools like Justice AI and like whatever other 100 AIs are out there trying to make a difference. This is a grassroots movement, 100%. And so we have to treat it as such. And there's more us than there are them. So I truly live in this space where I believe that real change can happen as long as we're all continue to work together in these silos.
I will say on that and say, in addition to that, you're thinking macro, right? You're thinking like big picture. I think people should be held accountable, personal people, the biggest people at the top, not the little people, because what they do is they scapegoat people at the bottom. I want to go after the CEOs. If your system is a really bad system and you don't take accountability for it, policy or not, it's on you, buddy, right? What happened with Meta, with YouTube, I want that to happen with Snapchat and all the little snap drug dealers that are happening out there. I like the minute you start making people accountable for their actions, and not the little people, not the people that follow the orders, but the generals. If you target them and you get them, all of a sudden you're going to see they behave. If all of a sudden you start de-incentivizing all the bad actions, they're not going to want to take it, because these people are lazy. They just want money. They don't care if they harm people. So let's take that out. It's like, fine, you can get money. You can earn money the legit way, though, without hurting other people, right? Because that's the problem. Like, we have guardrails that don't actually guard. They enable, like, these people. If you think about the people that are causing this issue, because it's people, right? People in the very end are making these decisions. They're people that are selfish. They're people that are like lazy. They're people that just want quick money. They're people that are willing to harm and kill people, right? If I really think about it, I mean, you think about how many, like, I mean, just like ChatGPT killing like teenagers, right? It's not even right.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus, you don't have to have a gun to kill them. You just have to have the, you know, the access. So make people accountable. And then all of a sudden you'll see that fall off, right? Because then people will learn that. The problem is that there's so much, like in other systems, like we have one system, AI, but AI is connected to the government, which we know is openly corrupt at this point, openly corrupt, especially in the US, right? Where they're taking money from all these different countries, right? That now it's like, are you really keeping our best interest in mind, or are you trying to satisfy the donor class? So I would say not only are the CEOs should be targeted, but the donor class. People who support these systems should also be held accountable. So it's looking at all the systems around it that enable the bad actors and charge every single one of them. I want to see them go to jail or worse, right? Because what they're doing to humanity, because this is just, AI is just one extension of the reality of humanity, right? Like Palantir was used by ICE to track people, right? And living in Chicago, literally in my backyard, I would turn around and see people like crash into cars, whistles. Like when it was really bad last year, right? It was terrifying. And guess what? Palantir was part of it. AI was part of it, right? I want the Nuremberg trials. After all this shit is said and done, I want like people like Peter Thiel, like the Karp guy, Alex Karp, all these people that like are just like the heads. Well, you know what? If you're just the figurehead, take ownership of your creation, buddy, right? You did all this damage, right? And we're going to hold you to account. So that's the thing. A lot of people, if they don't know what's going on, we can't do that, right? People have to be aware. People have to have righteous outrage to be like, prosecute them.
Yeah. No, accountability is a huge piece. And I think another big issue of it, of course, is social media has platformed oppression and amplified it in a way over the last 15 years, in a way that we've never seen before. And it normalized it. So it normalized this concept that there's two sides to every argument. It made oppression and neutrality a thing that we should take under consideration. And, accountability became cancel culture, right?
Yep.
And so it's actually accountability culture. And I think that having these systems in place, also, it gives us an opportunity to model the behavior of a society that we would love to have in the future. I'm a absolutely long-term macro big player. And of course, with that comes the micro in the small actions that we can take. But if we're looking at micro actions, then we have to model what we want as a society. And really, accountability plays a part in that. But it's also about coming into these spaces with a healthy mindset to understand how adversarial is necessary when we need it, but we also have to have crucial conversations in safe spaces and safe ways to have them. And so we have to really push ourselves as a society, because I truly believe it's a responsibility that each of us carry to be able to learn how to come into spaces better, have conversations better. And there are a lot of people who lean on folks like us, who seek leadership, who seek guidance, because they probably have never had a model of this to be able to operate smoothly. And so, yeah, I think there are a lot of moving pieces here for sure. But if we can look at it from a systems and power lens, and remember that that's the way that it operates daily, then we have to ask ourselves, what is our responsibility here? And what is our role in this fight? And what is our role in this space to learn, grow, and do better and work together as a community? And so that becomes a tasking, overwhelming ask for a lot of people. But I think that these are questions that we just, and conversations that we should always have.
I agree. I think the lack of conversation is the problem. The lack of community. People want us to be separated for that reason. If people are not connected, then they can't talk. They can't understand what they have more in common, right? Because people have more in common than they do like not in common, right? That's the problem. And the people that benefit from that disconnection are also the people that are extracting from all of us, right?
Literally
100%.
why it's called swarm community, right? And Joaquin, it calls himself community knitter, right? Which is like one of the important jobs out there right now. Manaz, do we want to take a couple questions? It's okay if we go over. Right?
Yeah, we have 10 minutes left to get to the questions, so hopefully we can get to
There's a lot of action in the
So the first question is from Robel. Do you perceive ethical AI as series of reasoning gates preventing harmful outcome, or rather something that is based on something like a reasoning constitution that helps to provide better reasoning?
That is a profound question because it gets to the heart of how we structure ethical reasoning in these AI systems. And it reveals fundamentally different approaches to building justice, right, and technology. So the reasoning gates model treats ethics like a series of checkpoints or filters. I like to think of it as a security system where harmful outputs get blocked out at various stages. But it doesn't necessarily provide a foundational framework for understanding why those restrictions exist or how to navigate novel situations they weren't anticipated by, like the original programmers. I think that we have to look at these things from a decolonial perspective as well, because colonization is the reason why we have all of these biases in these systems, right? And the way that these systems work. And if we understand how colonization operates systemically, then we could put proper parameters to deconstruct this intentionally. So I think that there's a multitude of ways that we can approach this. I think there's multiple ways to skin a cat. A lot of it is just understanding how this operates systemically.
I do not know enough about this to give an educated response from a tech perspective. From a human perspective, I can tell you, like, my personal ethics is more constitutional, right? Like general framework. What I've noticed is that ChatGPT actually changes their rules based on what the topic is, right? And ChatGPT admitted so much as so, right? Like, it actually told me, oh, because you're talking about Trump or a famous figure, I have to buy blah, 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 hedge more and blah, 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 blah. And it's amazing to see that it actually admitted to having different rules for different topics, right?
Yes.
And that in itself, is that ethical to change your constitutional ethical framework depending on the topic?
In real time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you can't. So I can't speak for the technology on how we can do it on the back end, but I can speak to as a human that it's like, have a framework, and part of the neutrality is that you don't change it based on who you're talking to.
There's a lot of people who always say, like, they look at my Justice AI and they say, well, isn't that just a form of bias? And I say, no, it's a refusal of neutrality, because neutrality is a fallacy. And when we understand that, and we understand that neutrality is not always neutral, it's a false category, then we start to think differently in how we build systems.
I agree.
Okay, Dr. Shai is back.
Hi, sorry, connection issue, but happy to be back.
Oh,
hey.
Sure, no problem. Happy to have you back. Okay, next question is from Big AI.
Big Al.
Big Al. Okay, sorry. All about AI. Christian, my brother, you talk about the biases of the capitalist system, but do you feel there are biases in any system? For example, many see socialism as a more caring system, but it has flaws. And certainly communism has proven them. Aren't the flaws in the system the humans?
Yes, and first of all, hi, Big Al. Thank you for joining. Big Al is he is definitely a brother of mine, and that is a great question. I think that every system carries patterns of the people who build it. I think what we have to remember when we talk about systems like capitalism and socialism and communism is that there's corruption and all of that because of the political interventions of capitalism to preserve capitalism, right? And U.S. intervention we've seen over the years have dismantled socialist movements. Not to say that those movements were perfect. I think that every system that we look at with these terms has embedded corruption in it, depending on who's running it. When we look at and understand these systems through a power perspective, I think that every system has a potential of being corrupt. Every system has a potential of being biased. So we have to really ask ourselves, we have to get out of the mindset of what's a better system, which system has the less bias, because they all have it, just because they're built by biased humans and by humans who don't understand the system of power. Or if they do understand it, they weaponize it and it becomes corrupt. And so it's, for me, it's never been about choosing one system over the other. It's about building a new system, again, like something we've never seen before, ever. That doesn't require US intervention or intervention of another country or conquering or or what have you, because all of these things, again, are political. We can't escape these truths.
I agree.
Great, thank you. Dr. Shrai, as we haven't you in the last like 5-10 minutes, would you like to add something on any of this?
I would, just as an overall, in terms of where do we go from here, I aspire, and this is idealistically, I'm speaking from a very idealistic point of view, but it would be great if we had a consensus, a sort of worldwide agreement on how to effectively and efficiently audit or evaluate systems and make sure that whatever is out there is meeting the mark in favor of the end users, meaning in favor of the public.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh, we lost her.
Technical issues.
I love where she was heading.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think I would love to piggyback off of what she's saying, because I agree completely. I think if we're auditing these systems and we're building these systems, ask the questions: who's being impacted, who's in control, who's being prioritized, and who's being left out. If we can start there, asking those same questions in the systems that we build and the systems that are being built for us, we have to ask the questions: who are we not prioritizing in this? And whose perspective are we prioritizing? And who's being left out? Again, it's about, there's this thing that I carry about values. I hear that, oh, well, everybody has values, and it's true, right? The Conservative Party has values, but if your values are positioned with power that exclude certain groups of people versus including everybody, then I think we really need to have a deeper conversation about what your values are actually like and what they're actually about. And so it all comes down to systems and power for me.
I agree.
So next question is from LinkedIn user. Would you read this?
Yes. This has come up more than once in the comments. My concern is that when bias already exists in healthcare and social systems, AI can end up learning and reflecting those same patterns. Does AI end up reinforcing, amplifying those biases or biases? Everybody says that differently. Or could it actually be used as a tool to help identify and correct them? I love this question.
Oh, that one is a good question. That's a good idea, actually.
The answer is absolutely 100%. It amplifies the biases and medical bias, and it is horrific to see. I actually developed Soma AI as part of Justice AI because I built it on this decolonial framework to identify medical bias as well. And it's making a triumphant difference for the medical examiners who want to adopt it. But the question is when we talk about this, do we know medical professionals who are willing to adopt ethical tools and have it? There are a lot of medical professionals who also don't understand medical bias. They don't understand anti-Blackness, and they don't understand the slave codes and the things that have been baked into the medical profession. And so that's a reality that we have to talk about too.
So Dr. Shai is a medical doctor. I think she's view on this would be very great to have here.
I'll jump in and just say that at large, as physicians, we're trained a certain way on a certain knowledge base. And that knowledge base is vastly increasing in size as we have new technologies like CRISPR or we have new genetic studies. But moreover, with the adoption of AI, you see a lot of doctors in practice relying on AI systems. There certainly needs to be some sort of cohesion between how medical doctors are trained today and how the practice will be in the coming future, meaning how to interface physicians and machine learning systems such that there's an agreement or some sort of symbiotic relationship rather than just an entire dependency. But that said, it's very difficult to bucket all physicians and all practitioners in a singular bucket. There are a lot of aspiring physicians who or physicians who aspire to be ethical in their use of technology. There are others that are completely lazy. And then this goes back to the point I was making that we are not a perfect species, and we definitely can't be fit into neat categories. And the same would apply in terms of medical training. But certainly this is the most opportune time to change that trajectory that that the audience asked about, in that if we have had biased data sets, which we have, and we know that as practitioners today, we make a lot of our decisions based on the blood reference ranges of males who were aged 17 to 24 from Central Europe who were Caucasian. And then, so those reference ranges don't apply to the rest of the world. We know that that has been biased, and we can certainly change that now and use better data sets moving forward. So this is the opportune moment to fix where we went wrong. Or we can perpetuate that same bias that was already existent and then make it much worse and amplified, in that we rely now on biased outputs.
Exactly. Thank
Perfectly
you so
said.
much.
Perfectly said.
So the time is up, but we have like 2 more questions. If you are willing to stay a bit longer, we can answer these too.
Oh yeah.
So another LinkedIn user: in our companies or with our clients, what are the most critical areas where we should be doing bias audits? Are there key decision gates or infrastructure decisions that should be prioritized?
So I'll jump in and say that all infrastructure critical domains need to be audited, and I mean thoroughly vetted. Moreover, anything that's public facing. So it's very difficult to say that one system over another system should be vetted. I think all AI systems need to be held accountable. I think all the people involved in developing the systems need to be held accountable, from the point of ideation all the way through to deployment and end user deployment, post-deployment usage. In terms of which areas, definitely start with when you choose as a department or as a company to embrace the usage of a certain AI product, be it off the shelf or be it native grown. There should be a department, a compliance department, or a person or two who are dedicated to investigating how the model was developed and as we mentioned earlier, what data was used to train it. Is it representative of who will be using it? So if you're using an LLM that was used in petrochemical industry and you're in the healthcare industry, it's certainly not going to be giving you the cognitive results without bias. But moreover, you need to be investigating the model selection itself, and then over time, iterations of the models, because what model worked a year ago is not a model that should be used today. And tomorrow, and as Yadi also mentioned, there's a water usage and a GPU energy consumption factor as well that needs to be considered. So if you are in a company or a department, you should certainly be surgically investigating every component of the AI system before using it.
Oh my God, everything in the pipeline, right? Down for that's the thing that people don't realize. The gate doesn't start with the AI. The gate starts outside the AI. It starts with the
Yes.
governance model. It starts with the people involved. It starts with the use cases. And I think that's the thing with me as an actual UX architect, right? Like I think about the experience. And a lot of people that don't understand AI think I do a lot of this fluffy work, but they don't realize that that's the hardest work, right? Understanding the use cases and the potential fallout, right? So the framework that Christian that you gave is actually a really brilliant framework because it's a very similar framework that I use in terms of, all right, if I have certain use cases, what's the potential fallout? Who's benefiting from this? Who can be hurt? And there's different everything, by the way, everything's a gradient, right? So it's not a level of who can be hurt like this just person. It's like, what are the different groups of people that can be hurt and in what different
Yes.
ways? Right. And then you do
Exactly.
research on that, but companies don't want to invest in that because they bought into AI because it's cheap. It's you plug it in, it'll just do everything for you. But that's the wrong type of thinking. It's like if you really want AI to be successful, because the thing, AI could be magnificent. The technology itself is neutral. It's the humans around it that are not. Right. So a technically neutral technology, right, is fed all this biases by the human, right? If we give it the wrong data, or if we're not giving it enough data, right? Because that's the other problem people think. Like you can give it data, but if it's not enough of it, it's not critical mass, then is it truly accurate? It may not be fully accurate. So there's a lot of things outside of the actual AI system that we have to consider as part of those, like, I would say those gates, those governance gates, those areas where we like need to figure out like, okay, if this could be a problem, then that because the answer is always going to be different for everybody, depending on your industry or what the context is. So if you do that exercise before you start building your stuff, then you can pre-identify what I call a pre-mortem, right? You can identify the potential friction points early on. So then you know where to focus. You still have to look at the entire system, but then just based on research that we've done from like either UX research or other type of research, you can understand these are the central areas we have to focus on based on this use case or this group of people.
Thanks, everyone. So next question is for
Love
Christian. What is your advice on full stack developers who are not using AI responsibly when coding?
Whew. Yeah, that's a layered, not easy to answer question. When we think about
want advice, right?
Yeah.
Like, do they even want advice?
No, and if for anybody who's worked with IT teams, you know that the last thing that most IT individuals care about are ethics. They're just there to do a job. They're there to program, and these aren't. It's not even that they don't care. These aren't things that are prioritized in their field, and they never have been. Right. So for the first time ever, when I started talking about building ethical code, light bulbs started going off for all my IT folks on LinkedIn and social media because they had never thought to even implement this into their pipeline, into their project management, into their development from the start. And so my advice is for all of my developers out there is to understand that systems and power absolutely start with development in these tools from the IT, like from the code itself. And so if we don't start having those conversations or asking the right questions right from the start, and to your point earlier, we have to really think about the implications of what we're building and who it impacts, for sure.
I've never seen our comment section so full of passion. It's like it's amazing.
Yeah, we have the most engagement ever.
Amazing. There's just so many people that, and I think it speaks to the shift that we're going to see is that this is going to come to the forefront more. And there, I think we need to touch on this with our podcast, Manaz, more often. I mean, last month was ethics, this month's bias, but I think 3 months from now we should probably do a check-in because it's just consistently changing, and this seems to be a real area of interest and concern, and we have to keep it in the front of people's minds. It's part of our jobs, I think, as people who do podcasts, that we keep this sort of front and center. And I think everybody in the comments and their rigorous conversation is just confirmation of that fact, that we need to keep talking about this and keep bringing it to people's attention and keep it in the front of minds.
Can I just say that a year ago, doing something like this, I would never see this amount of awareness and comments. And so my heart is full just to see that individuals now know what's up with AI. They've been paying attention. They now know that these issues exist, which is a testament to really our voices in these spaces, right? So kudos to all of you for being in this space and talking about it, because this is my life's work.
Yeah, 100%. Please reach out if you want to come on a future episode and talk more about this. There are a lot of people I would love to. Yeah, super. Sure. Yeah, awesome. I wish we could keep going, but
just one last question.
Can I just address Teresa's comment? Teresa mentioned here about in healthcare. She's right. Yes, you should be asking what was the data based on, and yes, you should be checking to see if it's representative. Moreover, where the answer to this question lay in explainable AI, which is the process of making a black box more transparent, and so when explainability and UX and UI is worked in well into a system, an end user, for example, a physician might be able to say, yes, I agree with the AI, or no, I don't. And he would say, yes, I agree, because we know that these are the features that the machine learning algorithm selected as diagnostic features. And if you don't have access to that, then you shouldn't consider that a trustworthy system. And so it's a combination also of UI, UX, wherein that option has to be made available to the end user, the same as the ability to say, I want this data reused to third parties, or do you know that you're using an API? So there's a lot of UI, UX mixed in with explainable AI to answer your question. But ultimately, in a human-centered design, especially in healthcare, it must be human and data-centered, giving the human the ultimate decision, understanding how the machine works through XAI.
Exactly.
That is so important. Explainable AI. People don't realize that, like, that is actually where they hide their skeletons, right? They're like, oh, it's a black box, let's just shove it in here. If we could create a way where we can actually have more of that transparency, right? And by the way, that's a better user experience too, right? Because as a user experience nerd, like, I love seeing status updates. I love seeing like why and how things come to be and the context of it. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Dr. Shai.
Thank you all for everything.
Thank you, everyone. So I think we can wrap up.
We have to wrap it up. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm thrilled about all the conversation going on. How many of you tuned in and just want to be part of the good movement, which I hope we all do. We'll be back next month we're taking a little bit of a turn. Next month's DESIGNathon is called What the Bleep is Going On with the Job Market?
No shit.
Cover all the subjects there, right? So we have some great guests next week. We have Jillian DiBenedetto is joining us. And I can't think of everybody else off the top of my head, but join us and tune in to Swarm Communities, LinkedIn, my LinkedIn, Manaz's LinkedIn. You will stay updated as long as you ring the bell, because Lord knows they're not serving you up our content. So please ring our bells and stay tuned, and we will talk to you all next time. Thank you for joining us so much. Follow me on Bullshit Free. Thank you all.
Great to see everyone.
Guys.
Thank you. Bye.